But I found an absolutely beautiful spot in the woods, really untouched bit of woodland this. And yeah, it's just beautiful here. Everything's just covered in like a carpet of moss, all these trees and rocks. Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. But yeah, anyway, this video is going to be a little bit different or completely different from my normal daily life videos. It's just going to be a Q&A basically. But before I start, I got a lovely treat for Ayana. Wow, it doesn't look lovely. I think it's a chicken neck. Ugh. Do you want a chicken neck? Oh dear, that's horrible, isn't it? So yeah, like I said, this video is going to be a Q&A. It's just a lot easier to answer questions in a video, especially when I get asked that question like over 100 times, you know? So yeah, I got all my most asked questions written down here. I'm not sure if I'll get through all of these, but I'm definitely going to get through as many as I can. So the first question on this list, and this is my most asked question in the comments, is how do I afford this lifestyle, or what do I do for money? And the truth is, when you live like this, you know, you don't have bills and rent. You're only paying for food out here. Well, I am anyway. And so life is incredibly cheap. Right now, though, I get paid from YouTube. That's how I make my income right now. But, you know, I was living like this long before I even had a YouTube channel. And back then, what I would do is I would simply work, just like everybody else. I'd find odd jobs at campsites, live-in jobs at farms and pubs and restaurants, work there for a month or two, and then I'd leave and I'd be back out into nature. And yeah, that money will last such a long time. If you're only buying food and you're shopping smart, then it's just going to last so long. And yeah, that's pretty much how I got by before. But now I'm lucky enough that I get paid from YouTube. So yeah, on to the next question. What led me into this lifestyle, or how did I choose to live outdoors? Well, I'm not going to go too deep into this one because I have made a whole video about my past. And yeah, it's not really something I was overly comfortable talking about. I definitely had to dig deep for that video. But yeah, the short answer is I was working just like everybody else, full-time job, you know, living in a house, and I just wasn't happy. I wasn't happy at all. It was really quite depressing, you know, minimum wage job in a warehouse, spending all your money on bills and rent and food, with hardly enough room to save up. And yeah, it just wasn't my version of happiness, and it was really starting to get to me. A couple months after I got Ayana, I quit my job, I packed my bags, and I walked out the door, and I never looked back. You know, that was almost 5 years ago now. So the next question, I get asked this one a lot as well. What do I do in winter? Again, the short answer is it's not going to look too much different from what I'm doing now. You know, the days are going to be shorter, it's going to be colder, it's going to be wetter, it's going to be windier, but ultimately it's not going to look too much different. You know, and honestly, I'd argue that there's a whole lot more ways that you can deal with cold weather than you can deal with hot weather. You know, you can wrap up warm, you can get good thermals, you can invest in a really good sleeping bag, hot water bottles, you can dig holes in the ground and make fires, let them go out, and then put your tent over the top of it. There are so many ways that you can deal with the cold. And honestly, some things in winter is so much easier. First of all, there's a lot less people around in winter, which I like. I like that a lot. When it comes to keeping food fresh in wintertime, it is so much easier. You can keep meat safely outside your tent for, you know, up to a week, and it's going to stay fresh in those colder temperatures. So the next question, since I go out a lot and I leave my tent and all my stuff in my tent, I get asked this a lot. People say, what if my stuff gets stolen? You know, has that ever happened? And no, it's never happened to me. In all my time living outdoors, it has never happened once. And I like to think it's because I play things relatively smart in terms of where I pitch my tent, the locations I pick. They tend to be really out of the way, on private land a lot of the time. And honestly, it's not really something I worry about too much, partly because it's never happened before. And I just don't see it being too realistic, you know? For starters, I don't have super expensive kit in my tent. You know, there's a couple of power banks. That's probably the most expensive part of my kit. You know, who's going to want to come into a tent and steal a homeless man's clothes, you know? I just don't think it's at the top of the priority list for thieves and people who like to steal, you know? Obviously, I'll probably need to be a lot more careful with it in the future, especially being a content creator now and exposing myself to thousands of people online. I will need to be a bit more careful. But, you know, touch wood that it never does happen. So the next question is, how do I charge my phones and my power banks? I simply just rely on cafes, pubs, public charging points, buses, trains. They usually have charging points that you can use. I remember one time I had to buy a day rider whenever I wanted to charge my stuff, and I just sit on the bus all day long charging my gear, switching from other buses to other buses. But yeah, most of the time I use pubs and hotels and cafes, and sometimes they'll even let me leave them there overnight. I tell you, just yesterday when I was charging my power banks, I actually left one in the phone shop that I got my phone repaired at. They were kind enough to let me charge, because I went in there to buy an extra cable. I needed a super fast charging cable, and I mentioned that it was for my power bank, and they were kind enough to let me leave my power bank there. So yeah, there's plenty of kind people out there that are willing to help you. I also do have a solar power bank, which definitely helps a lot when it is sunny. But yeah, I am looking to upgrade my power banks all into solar ones so that I don't have to rely on that anymore. And getting all my power from the sun would just, yeah, it would make things a lot easier for sure. I'll get there eventually. So another thing I get asked a lot is, aren't you worried about adders? Honestly, I have never seen an adder in my life. Not once. Not outdoors in the wild anyway. Not once have I seen an adder. Maybe I'm just lucky. I saw a grass snake once, and that was it. In 5 years of living outdoors, never seen an adder. So yeah, maybe I am just lucky in that respect. But no, I don't really worry about that at all. So another thing I get asked is, don't I feel unsafe living outdoors? Honestly, no, not at all. I've never really felt unsafe living outside. Honestly, I feel like I felt less safe living in cities than I do out here. You know, especially in this country, in the UK, you know, we don't really have any predators to worry about. We barely have any venomous creatures either, or poisonous creatures. So yeah, I really don't feel unsafe out here at all. Another commonly asked question that I've seen quite recently is people asking me, could I manage to live indoors again? Not on a long-term basis. Definitely not on a long-term basis. I could probably do it for a couple of weeks, but I would get absolutely sick of it. I really would. And this is part of the reason I'm saving up for a camper van, because, you know, it will just give me that extra bit of freedom. I'll definitely have somewhere to store kit and to warm up, dry clothes, whatever, all of that stuff. And maybe live in when it gets really bad during winter. But no, I will always carry on doing long expeditions and outings in tents, because it's just I can't really explain it, but it's just the only life for me. It really is. So another question, do I ever get asked to move on or get told off for camping where I shouldn't? No, this has never happened. Never ever happened. There's been one time where I had the police approach my tent, and it was simply a welfare check. They were just checking if I was okay. I've never been asked to move on by the landowners, by police, by any of that. So yeah, and I like to think it's because, again, I keep my tent and camping locations pretty sly and pretty tucked away in places that, you know, people don't usually check or go. So this is going to be the last question. I'm going to end it on a bit of a weird one. How do I poo? I'm sure most of you know exactly what the answer is going to be. So what I do is I dig a little hole, I squat down, I poo, wipe my bum, put the tissue in, as long as it's biodegradable, put the tissue in, cover it up, and yeah, that's it. All done. Pretty simple. Not the most pleasant sight, especially if you're wandering through the woods and you just see a man squatting, taking a massive poo. You definitely get scarred for life, I tell you. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are the most commonly asked questions that I get in my comment section. So hopefully that's answered your questions and cleared anything up that you were wondering about. But of course, if there is something you're still wondering, you know, feel free to drop a comment and hopefully I'll see it and I'll do my best to answer it. But yeah, that's all this video is going to be. I'm going to end it here. Definitely wasn't a long one, just a quick Q&A for you guys. And yeah, until the next adventure, it is goodbye from me.